Chumash and Rashi, the Torah portion, Vayeishev. We continue in the story of Yosef, of Joseph, and coming to Egypt. Yesterday we learned about Yehuda and Tamar, and now we continue the story of Yosef and going into Egypt into slavery. Okay, we are in the book of Vayeishev, Genesis, chapter 39, verse number 1. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam she'akom varei. Oh, Chaim Baruch. Yosef and Joseph, Hurad, was brought down, Mitzrayim, to Egypt. Vayikne'ehu, and he was purchased by Potiphar, Saris Parai, who was a prince, how's he translate? Yeah, courtier of Parai. Parai, Sar Hatavachim, he was the head prince of the butchers. Ish, Mitzri, an Egyptian man of prominence. Miyada Ishmaelim, he purchased him from the hands of the Ishmaelites. Asher Huriduhu Shama, that brought him down there. Rashi in verse 1. Okay, 1 second. Let me deal that in. Okay, Rashi in verse 1. Yosef was brought down. The Torah is now returning to the original topic. Why was it interrupted? Why was it interrupted with the story of Yehuda and Tamar? In order to juxtapose the descent of Yehuda to the sale of Yosef. That's to tell us that because of Yosef, the brothers took Yehuda down from his greatness. That's one explanation, right? In other words, Yehuda is the one that gave him the idea, right? The other brothers wanted to kill him. He said, just sell him into slavery. Ruvain said, put him into the pit because he was going to come back and save him, right? So Yehuda is kind of the one who's responsible in the eyes of the brothers. So the brothers brought him down in his significance. Okay, that's one explanation. Further, why does it interrupt with the incident of Yehuda and Tamar? This is juxtaposed to the story of the wife of Potiphar, which we will have. The Ma'aseh Samar to the story of Tamar. Listen to this. Mazu l'shem shamayim. Just as Tamar acted for the sake of heaven with noble intentions, Avzu l'shem shamayim. Also, she, the wife of Potiphar, who makes ways, to what's the word I'm looking for? Can't think of it. Advances. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. Towards him, that was also for the sake of heaven. Why? What was it for the sake of heaven? Sure, also because she saw that's the logan in the astrology shalah of hers, that she will be destined to have sons from Yosef. But she did not know. Is it going to be from her, or from her daughter? In the end, he marries Potiphar's daughter, right? She saw that she will be the progenitor of the children of Yosef. But she didn't know, is it her or is it her daughter going to be, right? That's why she made the advances. So the advances were for the sake of heaven.
Wasn't her daughter adopted?
Why?
I read somewhere that the daughter was
the daughter of Dinah, which came from Hamor.
Anyway, folks, 1 second. We're learning Chumash and Rashi right now, and I'm not certain how that fits in.
You just said something,
right?
And I'm just asking a question. If she's the progenitor of of
Vayeishev's
of
children.
Yosef's line, through her daughter, and her daughter is only.
He didn't know. She didn't know. No, what we just read is she wasn't certain. Is it her or her daughter? In the end, it's her daughter.
I read that too. I know that.
Right. So then what are you asking? So I'm not clear on what your question is.
In fact, she is not the progenitor because the daughter's adopted, not from her own, as you call it, her own.
Oh, one second. One second.
But she thinks so.
One second. One second. Let's understand what we're doing over here, and let's stay on track. Listen, just listen. Rashi is doing one thing. What is Rashi doing? Who can explain to me what we just learned? Can anybody explain that to me? What's Rashi doing over here? What's his problem? What's his problem?
Giving a literal interpretation.
That's what that's his intent and what he wants to accomplish. But what's his problem? What's his problem? Why is it juxtaposed? Why is the story that we just learned yesterday of Yehuda and Tamar juxtaposed to now the story of Yosef, where Potiphar she's going to make advances? That's all he's coming to answer. Right? So he explained one explanation to tell you about Yehuda. Now the second explanation is to tell you about Potiphar. That just like Tamar, we learned yesterday, and we saw clearly Tamar did it for the sake of heaven. We saw she was ready to give up her life even, right? So everything about her was pure. Same thing is by the wife of Potiphar. And he explains how so, because she knew that through her line, Yosef is going to have his children, his sons, right? So that she didn't know, though, if it was going to be her or her daughter. So if it's her, that's why she made the advances. The advances that she made were for the sake of heaven. That's all. Her daughter, this and that. It's not a question to why the juxtaposition and why she made the advances. She made advances because maybe it's from her, and therefore she needs to make those advances in order that maybe it will come from her.
Okay.
This sounds a little, seems a little strange for us. Nope, that's our problem. But that's not Rashi's problem to explain the juxtaposition. Is that clear? Yeah, it's clear. That's all we're doing over here. And therefore, anything else is extraneous. That's all.
It's not contradicting.
Not contradicting at all. Not at all. Because if it's from the daughter, she doesn't know. The question is why she made advances. So that's what he's explaining. Why she made advances, right?
Wow.
Okay, excellent.
Like so hard.
Okay, base. Verse number 2, Vahi Hashem, and Hashem was as Yosef with Yosef. He was with him. Vayish Matzliach, and he was a man of success. Vahi bebeis Hadainav, and he was in the house of his master Hamitzri, the Egyptian. No Rashi. Verse number 3, Vayara Hadainav, and his master saw Ki Hashem Ita, that God is with him. It's interesting that it's first of all, it's Hashem's name, right? The Tetragrammaton, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Rashi is going to explain what's my problem over here that I'm seeing. How's an Egyptian who is an idolater seeing that God is with him? The name, and not only that, the Tetragrammaton name of God, not even Elohim, which would be the God of, that's got plurality in his name, right? So we'll see. Rashi is going to actually explain. Interesting. Right. V'chol asher hu oiseh, and everything that he does, Yosef, Hashem matzliach biyadai. Hashem makes him successful biyadai, in his hands. By the way, this is a verse that we quoted when? Sunday night for the Torah studies class. We explained this. Verse number 3 in Rashi, Ki Hashem ita, because Hashem is with him. So what does it mean? Shem Shemaim Shagar B'fiv. The name of heaven was fluent on his mouth, and regularly he would refer to God in conversation. So it wasn't that that the Egyptian recognized God. That makes sense. How would the Egyptian recognize God? He's an idolater. He's a pagan, right? He recognizes that Yosef is always speaking about God. That's what Rashi explained. That makes sense, right? That explains our question. Now, he could recognize that this man is a man of God that is always speaking in conversation with God. Verse number 4. V'yimtza Yosef, and he found Yosef. Yosef found chen beinav, favor in his eyes. Whose eyes? Thank you. Whose eyes? Potiphar, right? Potiphar is his master, and he found favor in his eyes. And he served him. And he appointed him over his household, and everything that belonged to him. Who's him? Potiphar. Nasam biyadai, he placed in his hands. Rashi in number 4, Chol Yeshla, and everything that he has, Lashon Kotzer, there's an abbreviated language, Chaser Asher. It's missing the word Asher. Chol Asher Yeshla, it should say, but it doesn't say that. It's abbreviated. Why is it abbreviated? Well, because we know that the Chumash is the short version, and the Torah and the oral tradition is the elongated long version, right? So Rashi is that elongated to give us, the word that's missing. Not missing. Rashi, it's not missing because God missed something. It's missing in our understanding of the phrase of what it means, right? Not it's missing. Oh, it should be there. No, it's not supposed to be there, right?
It's missing for our understanding.
For our understanding, exactly. Very good. You guys are catching on. Vayehi, and it happened, me'az, hifkida yisei, bebeisei, that when he appointed him over his household, be'al kol asher yeshlai, and all over everything that he has, Kol asher see, look, you see in this verse, it says asher, right? In this verse, it says the word asher, that. Vivarach Hashem, and Hashem blessed as Beis HaMitzri, the house of the Egyptian, Biglal Yosef, on account of Yosef. Vahi birchas Hashem, and it was the blessing of God. B'chol asher yesh loi, b'bayis u'b'sada, and all that he had to him in the house and in the field. Right? Great blessing. Let's see Rashi in number 6. Oh, look at that. Last verse for today. It's short. I'm going to get a chance to do some the Rebbe Sichos. Sorry, that was 5. No comment. No comment. Yeah. Okay. Number 6. V'yazev, and he left Kol asher loy, all that was to him, biyad Yosef, in the hands of Yosef, v'lo yada itay mu'uma, and he didn't know a single thing of anything, ki im alechem, except for the bread asher hu oichel, that he eats. Rashi's going to pick up on that. What does it mean? Bread was important for him to eat, like that. What that he had to know about, and not steak. The steak wasn't important. After all, he was the butcher, right? He was the head butcher. So, like, what does it mean, the bread that he ate? Like, that's a funny, like that also he should give over to him, right? Rashi will pick up on it. Yosef, and Yosef was Yifei Tayar, a handsome form, Yifei Mare, and handsome appearance. Oh boy, got lots of stuff here. Let's see Rashi. He did not know anything that was with him. He didn't concern himself with anything. In other words, he entrusted Yosef completely. So wouldn't he entrust him with the bread too? Right? I mean, the eggs he entrusted with him, the coffee he entrusted with him, but not the bread. Rashi, Kim Alechem. Rashi says, except for the bread, what does bread means? He Ishta means his wife. Aled Shediber but Torah speaks in a clean language, right? In other words, referring to his wife as his bread, right? In other words, the relationship with his wife, that's the only thing that he didn't, right? Which is obviously fits in with the storyline. That's what's going to happen tomorrow, right? Because her advances and so on, and then when she, isn't successful, and when she cries out to her husband, right? So in that context, also, what do you mean? Well, he trusted everything with him. So bread for sure he would trust with him. So Rashi explains, Torah wants to tell us that it's about his relationship. And that also then makes sense why the rest of the verse says about his being handsome. What does that all, where did that fit in? What was the Torah telling us that for? Oh, because his wife is the only thing that he was concerned with, right? And his relationship with his wife. Everything else he gave over to Yosef, he entrusted with him. And now it tells us about his being handsome. Oh, well, that will lead us into tomorrow of the advances that she makes towards him, right? You see, let's see.
Potiphar a good person?
Huh?
Was Potiphar a good person?
Himself?
Yeah. He wasn't. His wife.
He acted for the sake of heaven. What that means. She was a good person. Listen, in the end, she didn't take responsibility for what she did, right? So is she a good person? She didn't. She called her husband. Look, he's trying to seduce me.
The difficulty with why is he putting in parallel his wife and Tamar? It's like
He didn't put him in charge of his wife.
Well, one second. What is Rashi trying to do? What's Rashi doing?
He's explaining why.
No. What's Rashi's overall purpose? To explain the simple meaning of the text, right? Simple meaning of the text. So Rashi is bothered by the juxtaposition, and therefore he says, this is what the Torah is saying. Now, if you have a question on why the Torah is saying that Potiphar, the wife of Potiphar, was for the sake of heaven, well, does Rashi explain whatever? If it's a little difficult to understand that, that's a different conversation than Rashi to understanding the simple meaning of the text. How do we get that? How do you understand that about her, especially in the end, that she doesn't own her seduction, right? She puts it on him, right? As we'll see tomorrow. So that's not a question on simple understanding of the text, right? That's a philosophical understanding of the idea,
Okay.
right? Which is a question. It's a good question, but not for now. We'll see. I don't know if the Rebbe deals. Okay, next Rashi. Yosef Yefei Tayar, and Yosef was a handsome of form. Tayar is form. Given Sharasa Atmei Moishel, once Yosef saw himself ruling as the position of authority, he's Geloich of said, look what Rashi explains to us. Why is the Torah telling us this? Because he got this authority, so he started to eat and drink, and was salsa b'sara and curl his hair, and others to make himself handsome, right? Oh, God said, Avicha misabel, your father is mourning, and you're curling your hair, like you're trying to look nice. 17-year-old, remember, right? 17, right? He's a teenager. Right? Ani megare b'cha es adoid. I will provoke the bear against you, and not Russia. Right? I will provoke the bear against him. Miyad, whereupon immediately v'tisa eshes adeinav, where the master's wife cast her eyes on him. After all, he was handsome. Kol makom shenamar. Anytime it says after, somewhat close upon that which is mentioned previously. Wow. So there's a sikha, there's many sikhas over here. Let's see what we can find. Shkoyach Shmuel. We're in Caesar's palace right now, eating whoa.
Don't forget, I have a that for you.
Thank you. We don't forget you.
Like you never forget for us. You always teach us. No matter what.
I'm sure you will remind me.
Okay, you ready?
That's what the said, right? Don't forget.
Yeah.
Remember and don't forget.
Okay. So, so the verse says we just learned, right? Let's go on this. We're going to do this verse that Rashi says rather that he saw himself, since he saw himself as an authority, right? He was taking care of the household, so he became a little lax, right? And he started to eat and drink, right? And curling his hair. So God says, "Your father is mourning, and you are playing with your hair. I'm gonna bring upon you megara, as he translate provoke, yeah, the bear, right? I'm gonna provoke the bear on you."
Figuratively. Referring to.
Referring to the wife of Potiphar, yeah, that's figurative, right? Unleash. Okay, good. So the Rebbe asks, we need to understand, we need explanation over here. Why does Rashi add that your father is mourning and you're playing with your hair? Right? In other words, I'm unleashing the bear. You could just say simply, since he was eating and drinking and playing with his hair, so that's why she, took notice of him, right? She took notice of him.
Right.
In other words, he's a happy party goer,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if you will, right? That's not a whatever. She took notice of him, right? Simple. Why does Rashi have to say this? Whole complex thing about your father is mourning and you're playing with your hair. Why does he have to say that? Right? You follow the question?
Yeah.
Remember, it has to come from the text, and you could just simply say he was eating and drinking and looking handsome, and that she took notice. Right before, when he was a slave, a slave doesn't look handsome. Now he's a place of authority, so he's able to eat and drink and to look good, and he's taking care of himself. So that simply she took notice. So
Made himself more attractive to.
exactly. So we can answer according to Rashi. Wherever it says "Achar hadvorim ha'ele," after these things, which is the next verse, right? And after these things, the word dvorim is from the word dibur, dvorim from words. In other words, there had to be some words that were exchanged, right? Therefore, Rashi explains that what were the words? God said, "Your father is mourning, and you're playing with your hair. Therefore, I'm going to bring this upon you." Now, what forces that it has to be this way? That these are the words, this is the exchange, right? Because the intent of the verse is to emphasize the connection between the different occurrences. So first it says "Vayi be'esahi," and it was at that time, and then it says "Vayi achrechein." This emphasizes that after these words comes to teach us that there were words of exchange. Because look at the first verse of today's class. The first verse of today's class. Sorry, not the first. No. Where is it? One second. Let's see where those words are. Because till now the term has been used, and it was at that time. It doesn't use the word dvarim, words, things, but the diuk is that means words. Yeah. It just shows that whenever you say after these things or after, is really after these words. There was an exchange of words because that's not the common expression. The common expression after Vayi be'esahi, and it was at that time. Well, you have to after these things or these words means that there was an exchange of words. So who was the exchange of words? God, is speaking to Yosef. What are you acting this way? Right? Your father's mourning. Okay, there's more here. There's okay. Anyways,